Welcome to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and I'm super excited to be here because we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting things. We're going to be making sure that we're going to be having a very interesting conversation as well. So you have to make sure that you are tuned into the conversation because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling. We're going to be talking about some really interesting things. Okay, so don't forget to do that. Don't forget to actually go talk about, or rather, don't forget to listen into the conversation, to tune into the conversation, because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling, because that's what we do right here on Relax Radio. Okay, now, like I said, I'm very excited to be here, but we're going to be talking about some really important topics, right? We're going to be talking about the Pingdemic, and the reason I'm going to be talking about the Pingdemic is because we're constantly on our phones and we're constantly getting pings on our phones whenever we come into contact with someone who has been in contact with someone who's gotten COVID, right? And why exactly is this a problem? And I know you have a lot of questions about it, and don't worry, because I'm here to answer all of those questions. I'm here to make sure that you are okay, that you can get your way through the week with, basically, if you have all of these questions, that you can make your way through the week and have like a smooth sail. Okay, you're going to smoothly sail through the week, and finally, all of us actually going to smoothly sail throughout the week, and then finally make sure that we can finally make sure that we can get through the week and eventually get through the pandemic as well, right? So that's what I want to do, especially because here at Relax Radio we focus on you. We want to make sure that you are feeling completely fine and that your thoughts and your opinions are always being heard, because we value your thoughts, we value your opinions. Okay, so don't forget to do that, because I want to know what you're thinking, I want to know what you're feeling as well. Don't forget to text me on 07852473473. Text me, call me, whatever it is that you want to do. Make sure to do that, because I want to know what you're thinking about this and whether we are actually affected by the pandemic or whether that's just me. Okay, because sometimes things like that can happen, right? I mean, I overthink so much sometimes. I create problems for myself. It's who I am as a person, it's my personality. Okay, now that's what we will be talking about, so don't forget to do that. Don't forget to text me on that number. All right, the number right there. Don't forget to text me on that, call me on that, because I want to know what you're thinking, I want to know what you are feeling as well. Okay, so right now, before we head into the conversation, you can go follow us on our socials. You can like us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can actually make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Don't forget to do that, because that way you can make sure you are listening live to the conversation. Be it business, be it science, be it sports, whatever it is that you want to know, we play it all here right on Relax Radio. Okay, and it is absolutely amazing as well, so don't forget to do that. Now we'll head into our conversation, which is basically about the pandemic. Okay, now what exactly is the pandemic and why are we talking about this? I mean, is it really important? Do we really care about it? Why should we care about it? Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what exactly the pandemic is, right? Because I think before we understand the whole crux of this problem, we need to understand what exactly the pandemic is. Okay, now nearly 700,000 people were in fact pinged by the NHS COVID app this week, right? And this was within the time frame of a week, and that was 700,000 people. Okay, so what exactly does that tell you? I mean, does it tell you that there's probably something wrong with the app, or if there's an increase in coronavirus cases? Because to me, it genuinely looks like there's an increase in coronavirus cases. So why are we not taking extra steps? Why are we still going around having fun, not really focusing on the pandemic? Those are questions you should ask yourself as well. Okay, now make sure to ask yourself those questions before you head out. Ask yourself if it's actually really necessary. Okay, do you have to head out? Is it important for you to head out? If it's not the case, then don't go out. It's as simple as that. Don't go out if you don't have to. I mean, of course, if you have to go out for something essential to get like groceries or something and you really have to go out, well, okay. But if not, try to stay at home as much as possible. Okay, now getting back to how there were 700,000 people that were pinged by the NHS COVID app in the past week. Now, these alerts were in fact sent to notify users that a close contact of someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Okay, basically, if they were someone that was in contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19, well, then that was just the app telling them, hey, you need to isolate. You need to go make sure you isolate, and you don't do you don't head out, and you don't do all these risky things and put everyone else at risk. Right now, that is what the NHS COVID-19 app is currently doing, right? And last week's number pinged was in fact a record because it was so high. Now, in the week of July 14th, okay, that week, there was actually 618,903 alerts that was sent out. However, if that was the case, if so many alerts were sent out, but that number actually increased by almost 100,000 more, because this week it was 700,000 people that were pinged by this app, right? And last week, if you went into the shops and whatnot, you would have seen empty shelves as supermarkets struggled with stuff, and especially in certain branches, some stuff wasn't actually there. And this week the government actually said that it's expanding its daily contact testing for frontline sectors, right? And the reason they're doing that is because all of these frontline sectors are in fact exempt from isolation, and they need to make sure that they are that they can go to work, they're essential workers. So obviously with things like that, it's very, very important for us to actually think about this. What exactly is the point of the pingdemic? Why are we getting so many pings? Is it actually something wrong with the app, or is it just us not being careful, not really being safe, and going out if we don't really have to go out? And make sure you stay tuned, because we still have a lot more left to continue on this conversation. But until then, make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep continuing about we'll continue this conversation about this.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you've got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be? So that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education, or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account. And then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Super excited to be here because we're having a very interesting and important conversation, if I put it that way, about the pingdemic that's currently, taking over the streets of England. Okay. And the reason we're talking about this, obviously, is because a lot of people have been pinged in the past few days, or, actually the past few weeks because of the pandemic. And, that's always made us question if the pingdemic or the ping is in fact something that is wrong with the app, or if that's just an increase in all of the COVID-19 cases right now. Those are questions that you need to be asking yourself, and those are questions that I have as well. So do get in touch with me, do share your thoughts and your opinions with me. WhatsApp me on 078 or you can even call me on that exact same number, because I would love to hear your thoughts on this, right? And the reason I'm telling you that is because this is something that is not just affecting me or you, but it is in fact affecting a lot of other people. Okay, so don't forget to do that, because I want to know what you're thinking, I want to know what your thoughts are, and get in touch with me, share them with me. Okay, and before we actually head back into our conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just to go follow us on our socials, right, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Now you can actually follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on Twitter and TikTok, whereas if you're on Facebook, then you have to like us on Facebook. Okay, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that's definitely going to help you stay informed, stay updated about everything that is happening, not just here in the UK, but in fact all around the world as well. Okay, and obviously something else that you need to do is actually to download the app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Don't forget to do that, because it's definitely going to help you out. But right now, let's actually get back into our conversation about the pandemic. Okay, and we have to talk about this because obviously, like I said, when it comes to the pandemic, when it comes to all of these things that we're talking about, uh, last week there was this record high of the amount of pings that people actually got, right? So let's talk about what exactly the problem is over here, right? Is the problem the pandemic, or is it the pandemic? Okay, now the only way to actually approach this, or the only way this approach would make sense, is if infections no longer mattered. But we know that's not the case, because infections do matter, right? Because in a lot of ways these infections matter, right? Firstly, only half of the population here in the United Kingdom are in fact vaccinated, right? Which is basically about 54.9% of the current population that have been fully vaccinated, and nearly half of them are still unprotected, or that or they've just gotten their first dose. So we know that the rate of infection isn't going to be completely eradicated. It is still there, right? That rate of infection is still there, and people are getting infected as well. Just because you're vaccinated, like I've said so many times before, it does not mean that you are completely immune from the virus, right? What it does mean though is that you have additional protection, all those pluses, so additional protection. All right, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be completely safe from it. So you still have to take those precautions, you still have to take the necessary steps that you used to take to make sure that you're stay safe, right? So, like I said, only half of the population here in the UK are in fact vaccinated. Now, there's nearly another half that isn't vaccinated, or who have gotten partially vaccinated. Now, secondly, vaccines are in fact very, very effective against serious diseases, right? And between 4% and 8% of fully vaccinated people who would have previously been hospitalized after infection still will be. Okay, look, here's the thing, right? Like I said, it doesn't mean you're going to completely stop getting the disease or whatnot. You'll get the disease, obviously, but you will have much lesser effects on it, right? And that's why it's very, very important for you to make sure that you know that, and that you still take those necessary steps that you need to take to make sure you are safe from the pandemic. All right, and something else that you need to keep in mind, or thirdly, is that right now we're also facing something called long COVID. Okay, it's not like we don't have enough problems already, but they were just like, why not give you long COVID? Finger guns, okay? I will just give you something else and leave you with something else as well. So that's what they thought as well. And now we currently have this risk of long COVID as well, because there's still a lot of uncertainty about long COVID. And it's in fact undoubtedly a real and growing problem. Okay, so firstly, we have half a vaccinated population. Secondly, we have this whole notion that even though we're fully vaccinated, even though you've gotten vaccinated, it doesn't mean that you're completely eliminating the disease from your body. You can still have a chance of getting the disease. And number three is in fact the fact that there is something called long COVID, which we really don't have a lot of information about, right? And because of that, there's still a lot of controversy, there's still a lot of unknown uncertainties with regard to long COVID. And fourthly, reason number four is when you let an infection rip through a population, that in fact increases the likelihood of new variants emerging, right? So what's going to happen is we're just going to go back to square one. Why would you want to go all the way there and then just go back to square one? It just does not make sense, right? Which is what is going to happen if we don't really take any more steps, if we don't take any preventive measures, and we still keep ignoring the fact that the pandemic is very real. Even though restrictions have been lifted, even though all of these things have been lifted, it doesn't mean that the pandemic doesn't exist, right? It still exists, it's very real. We still have to keep taking those necessary steps that we were taking before, right? So then our only strategy is not only or rather our strategy here, if we don't change our ways, is not only going to affect us here in the UK, it's going to in fact affect the whole world, right? We're talking about variants. We know how quickly this thing spreads. It just spreads like it just spreads so fast. Okay, so you need to make sure that you take the necessary steps. You need to make sure that you're taking whatever precautions it is that you need to take. And obviously the obvious alternative right now for all of us is to take these infections very, very seriously and to enforce all of these measures to drive them down, right? And these are things like wearing a mask, maintaining social distancing, sanitizing your hands, and ensuring indoor spaces are in fact well ventilated, and supporting people to self-isolate when they have to. Okay, now make sure you stay tuned because we have a lot more left to continue in this conversation. But right now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking about more of this. Okay, so until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start and say, well, what do I want my net worth to be? So that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 or